Okay, we're good. Oh, this needs to be higher. Grant, I'd like to encourage you that James firmly believes that if men who do housework get more. So would that be an encouragement to you? It's been fun listening to the stories of various couples through this series, and just seeing how very real we are in the little ways that we have our own quirks and that kind of thing. If you are joining us for the first time, I'm not the real pastor. I'm that spiritual formation person. And it's a big, hairy title. It's the new guru title, okay? It's really just that person who's doing small groups and everything else that they can ask to do, including preaching a sermon. So this morning, I want to welcome you here. If you made it this far with us, congratulations. I'd like to thank you. You can give yourself a round of applause. If you haven't had a major disagreement with your spouse, then I'm going to ask you to do the talk next time. But personally, James and I had a really good row after week one. It seems that it wasn't about the topic, by the way. It actually happened to be over shoes. And I had gone out shopping and enjoyed myself, and I came home with not one, not two, but actually 3 pairs of shoes. And they were sitting in the kitchen when James came home, and he came in and it raised his eyebrows significantly. I don't think we've seen them yet. But anyways, he says, "Did you have fun?" Now you need to understand something. I'm not a shoe shopaholic. I don't have a shoe problem. I just have really big feet. So when I find something and it actually fits my foot, I actually like to buy it. And so I bought a few pairs. In fact, James likes to tease me about my big feet. He says, "Your feet's too big, honey." And there's a song by a guy who is very old, black kind of gentleman of some kind, and it's Fat Swaller. And he has a song, and sometimes James will sing that song to me, "Your feet's too big," and I tell you, it just doesn't get you very far. Women are just a little sensitive with the feet thing. So I went and I got a pedicure this week, and now I have big, pretty ugly feet. So anyways, here we are. The reality is we all get into fights, squabbles, and things like this in our marriages. And it's a reality that we're bound to rub each other the wrong way from time to time. Gary Smalley, who wrote From Anger to Intimacy, said that it's often the small daily irritations experienced over a long period of time and not dealt with in a healthy way that have the power to strain a marriage and lead it to estrangement. It's a given that, the fairy tale marriage that we've all bought into is going to be tested from time to time. And it's guaranteed that your spouse's human nature is going to give you some concern once in a while. There's always a surprise. If you are new here today, we have been in the middle of a series. It's week 7 of this series called Sex on Fire. And we have been focusing in on the relationship, the marriage relationship. But if you are single, I don't want you to put the snooze bar on, because you never know when God's going to bless you with someone. If you are older or widowed or whatever, God has a word for you. All of Scripture is sacred, and there is nothing that God can't teach you through some little portion of Scripture. And I'm not going to be referring to all the verses that pertain to marriage in this talk. Anyway, so, all right, let's dig into the book, the Song of Solomon. And I'm going to pick up in chapter 2. And in this chapter, the man and the woman are on a date, and they're having a little bit of fun. Oh. And they're talking to each other quite tenderly. They have all kinds of good things to say to one another. And I'm going to pick up where the man is speaking to the wife. And he says, "My beloved is like a dove, hiding in the cracks of the rocks, in the secret places of the cliff. Show me your face, and let me hear your sweet voice. Your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards while they are in blossom." The verse that ends that little section was the one on catch the foxes for us. The little foxes that ruin the vineyards while they are in blossom. I don't know if you had a little disconnect, but it seems like his eyes have shifted from the woman that he's like loving and, ooh, I like, to a garden. Like, what happened there? I just don't know what's going on. So I looked into my study Bible, and their suggestion for that passage was that it wasn't actually the man who spoke those words, but it was likely the brothers who spoke. And they said, you know, there's a problem. There's some foxes that have gotten into the vineyard and you got to deal with it. So the situation of the foxes being in the vineyard is an interruption on a courting event. You know, things come in the way of us having a date with special someone. But often when you're in the dating phase, you know what, you will clear your calendar to set aside some time to get to know that special someone. There's no problems doing that. But as the marriage progresses, as kids come into the picture, as work obligations pile up, it becomes a little more difficult. You have to actually discipline yourselves to take time. So, the vineyard. The vineyard is to be considered in this passage as the relationship, metaphorically. And then the foxes are an intrusion upon that relationship. And it acts as something that threatens the vitality of their love life and may bring it to ruins. The author uses this example of foxes, but anything can, there's a lot of different things that can ruin a vineyard. You know, there could be disease, or there could be you know, thieves coming through the village or whatever, and they come in and they trash the vineyard. It could be fire. But they used foxes. Foxes is a very clever concept. Because foxes by nature, they're sly, and they're very opportunistic animals. They go after small prey, but they go after the tasty fruit in the vineyard. Understanding that this nature of the foxes is to be applied to these kind of problems that we develop in our relationships is very telling. Problems will sneak up on us. And we need to place up guards around our relationship. And we're going to need wisdom. We're going to have to use some effort. And maybe a bit of humility. After all, pride does go before a fall. So this morning as I'm talking to you about some of these problems, these fox-type problems that get into a marriage, what I'm saying to you is not going to be so much profound as it's going to be practical. As if you and I were sitting on a park bench and we were talking about a mutual friend that we were broken about what happened to their relationship. It's probably going to be one of these things. And so it's going to be a very practical talk this morning, and we're just going to dive into the first fox. And if there's one thing that would probably set you off to a bad start, it is failing to develop kind of a picture, a blueprint, a life plan of where you're going as a couple. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, give me a break. People don't get married without thinking about where they're going and what their mutual interests are and where they see themselves going in the future. But not so. I think more couples will admit, men will admit, are caught up in romance. They're so eager to be no longer alone that they'll sacrifice on some of those principles and things that are important for them. Just ask someone who's been widowed recently how it is to be alone after 20 years of marriage. Ask someone who's gone through a divorce. Maybe they no longer have someone's arms to fall in at the end of a rough day.